If you're one of my loyal 68 followers, you may have noticed that I haven't posted in 3 years, so hello, welcome back. If you're new here, hi, my name is Eva, and I will be doing a deep dive into all of the Addams Family film and TV adaptations. I'll also be ranking them in a tier list too, so I'll say the rankings. The first one is...
That's French.
The second one is...
Unhappy, darling.
The third one is...
Pastels?
The fourth one is...
Oh no. He lives.
And the fifth and lowest tier is...
Has the planet gone mad?
Good question, Gomez. Thank you. And remember, this is only my opinion. Please do not get upset if I talk trash about your favorite Addams Family adaptation. And spoiler alert, because I will be summarizing the plots of some of these movies and TV shows. Now let's get into the video. If you don't know, the Addams Family was originally a comic created by Charles Addams in 1938. It was created to be the opposite of the average nuclear family during the time. You know, instead of a white picket fence in the suburbs, the Addamses got a sentient metal fence in a Victorian-style house. The comic's characters originally consist of Gomez, Morticia, Pugsley, Wednesday, Uncle Fester, Grandmama, Thing, and their butler Lurch. At this time, the characters didn't have names. They usually were just seen together in a picture with some text at the bottom for the punchline of the joke, but they later got fleshed out more in the 1964 sitcom titled The Addams Family. The 1964 Addams Family is a live-action sitcom starring John Astin as Gomez and Carolyn Jones as Morticia. It ran for 2 seasons and it's pretty much the same as the comics. A strange gothic-style family that is the opposite to what the average nuclear family is supposed to be. The family tree is pretty much the same, but I should go over it for each version because the lore is very confusing and inconsistent for each one. Gomez and Morticia are of course the parents of Pugsley and Wednesday. Pugsley is the eldest child and Wednesday is the youngest. Grandmama, or Edwarda Addams, is Gomez's mother. Uncle Fester is Morticia's uncle, making him the great uncle of Pugsley and Wednesday. I assume that Fester is Morticia's maternal uncle because they have similar names. There are also some secondary characters in the family also, like Ophelia, Morticia's sister, Granny Frump or Hester/Esther, I don't know why they changed her name, that's Morticia's mother, and Cousin It is Gomez's cousin. See, it's very confusing. The premise of every episode is pretty similar. Someone from outside of the family comes into their house and they are very frightened by the family's eccentric antics, like their clothing, house decor, food, etc. But the Addamses are pretty oblivious to it. They think that they're just the average family and everyone else is just a bit strange for running away from their house when they see a whole lion as their pet cat. The Addams family is also extremely loaded because Gomez comes from Castilian nobility.
You mad Castilian.
People are always trying to rob them, yet they don't even notice. This comes up a lot in future adaptations too. The character designs are pretty accurate to the comics too, besides the fact that they yassified Gomez and changed him from being a short king. But I'll let that slide because John Astin is such a good Gomez. They actually wanted him to shave the sides of his head to look more like the Gomez cartoon, but he was like,
I wanted to look more attractive, and I thought that would work better.
Understandable, to be honest.
I'll be crying if I look like that too, bro. That's fucked up what they be doing to y'all.
The dynamic of Gomez and Morticia is great in this adaptation. Gomez and Morticia are portrayed as an old married couple that never came out of their honeymoon phase and are still very much in love with each other, which is different from the average old married couple that ends up hating each other after being married for so long. John Astin and Carolyn Jones have great chemistry, and Astin actually said that he was in love with Jones. You know you got a good Morticia and Gomez if the fans think they're in love in real life. Their passionate romance may be seen as tame by today's standards, but it was actually quite controversial in the 60s. Married couples on television weren't passionate about each other like how Gomez and Morticia were. Like, Gomez would go crazy every time Morticia spoke French, made an animal impression, or honestly when she did anything. Then she had to tell him,
Darling, please. Bissell now, boobala later.
Ah, yes.
just to get him to calm down. This is probably why they never actually kissed in the show, because if they did, the critics would have been real mad about that. I especially love Gomez and Morticia's love story in this one. Gomez is engaged to Morticia's sister Ophelia because of an arranged marriage that Grandmama and Granny Frump set up. Gomez ends up falling in love with Morticia instead and breaks off the wedding with Ophelia. Ophelia doesn't really care though and goes off with Cousin It to have a summer fling. Unfortunately, the children don't really serve much purpose in this show. They usually just are blowing things up and decapitating dolls, playing with their toys, like normal kids. Pugsley is usually the same in most versions, but Wednesday in this version isn't like the other versions we see her as in modern times. She acts more like the average child, she smiles and plays, she's still very morbid, but not so deadpan like we see in the later versions. Uncle Fester and Grandmama are usually the same in every adaptation too. Uncle Fester is pretty much an airhead that has electricity powers for some reason, and Grandmama is just the average witch. Thing is just a decapitated hand in a box that helps out the family. And I really like Lurch in this series because in some later adaptations he doesn't even talk at all. He only groans like a zombie. I'm happy that they actually gave him talking parts in this version. I also love how they call for him with the noose bell, but I guess they can't do that in future adaptations. Understandably so. The Adamses are also very accepting of things that aren't particularly in their culture. Around their house, you can see they have multiple items from different cultures, and their different family members also come from different cultures too. So I guess that also makes them different from the average quote-unquote normal American at the time, because they were only supposed to be in this certain box. That's why I love the Addams Family. They're just amazing. The only bad thing that I can say about this adaptation is that I wish that Gomez and Morticia actually kissed, because Gomez only kisses her arm, and I wish that they would utilize the kids more. I'll definitely rank this one in the That's French tier. Many iconic lines and many iconic moments. This is one of the only sitcoms that made me laugh out loud, like really. They do a great job on expanding on the comic simple plot, probably because they had help from Charles Addams on the show too. And, you know, the Addams Family is a loving family, even though they may be creepy and kooky, mysterious and spooky. The next adaptation is a television special titled Scooby-Doo Meets the Addams Family from 1972. The special is from the new Scooby-Doo movie series. This was the first animated Addams Family adaptation, and the characters are back into their old art style that the comics had. That means the Yesified Gomez is back. The storyline is about the Mystery Inc. gang getting stranded in the woods, and Lurch comes out to help them. When Lurch leads them inside the house, Gomez and Morticia are getting ready to leave for a vacation. They are of course very hesitant and freaked out because of their scary mansion, but they end up doing it anyways. The funny thing about this adaptation is the gang keeps saying that this house looks familiar and the guy looks familiar, referring to Lurch, and then they find out that this is the Addams family's house, and Fred says,
I've seen it on TV lots of times.
so does that mean that the 1964 Addams Family show is canonically a reality TV show in the Scooby-Doo universe? Someone needs to tell MatPat to make his last theory about this one. But anyways, this special has most of the same actors as the 1964 sitcom doing the voice acting. John Astin as Gomez, Carolyn Jones as Morticia, Jackie Coogan as Uncle Fester, and Ted Cassidy as Lurch. The family is pretty much up to the same antics as usual too, and the Mystery Gang is obviously very afraid, just like the people in the 1964 version. The Mystery Inc. gang kind of gets forced into being the Addams family's house sitters because Gomez and Morticia think that they're the new house sitters. Their old ones ran away because they were scared of their house and the family. I don't know why they need house sitters though, because Grandmama and Uncle Fester are there to watch the house and the kids, but I guess it's for the plot. Wednesday ends up going missing though, and they are trying to find her. The part of them trying to find her is pretty much just like an average Scooby-Doo episode of them going into random rooms, and it's just mixed with the Addams Family because they just have random stuff in their rooms too, and they're just scared the whole time. As they try to find her, the gang also finds out that someone has been sending letters to the Addams Family threatening them and telling them that they need to leave, so the gang goes to discover it. They find out that it's a couple that's trying to run the Addams Family out of the town, and by the end, they convince them that the Addams Family are actually good neighbors. The couple that was threatening them was the old house sitters all along, and they weren't even house sitters, they were only doing that to get the Addams Family out of town. This is more of a Scooby-Doo episode than an Addams Family episode, but that's just because this is a Scooby-Doo show and not the Addams Family show. I think this special needed more focus though, because there was a lot happening with the gags of the Addams Family's house and them looking for Wednesday and solving the mystery too. My favorite part of the whole episode is when Thing pets Scooby. It's very cute. I'll put this one in the pastels tier. Pretty good for a crossover though. I'm pretty sure that this crossover was made to promote the next adaptation that I will be talking about right now. The next adaptation is an animated sitcom, of course titled The Addams Family, starring Lenny Wenreb as Gomez and Janet Waddell as Morticia. Jackie Coogan and Ted Cassidy come back to reprise their roles as Uncle Fester and Lurch, and it ran for one season. The art style is pretty much the same as the comics and the Scooby-Doo crossover, but it's way more unpolished. Gomez's height is also really inconsistent. Sometimes he's shorter than Morticia, and sometimes they're the same height. I also really don't like Gomez's voice in this adaptation. No hate to Wenrib, but it is really annoying, especially his laugh. Now, I'm not gonna lie, his voice doesn't match how Gomez looks in this adaptation, but it's really just so annoying.
Oh, can you forgive me, Carita? I thought you were in the arms of a strange man.
Why does he sound like this? So, I only watched a few episodes of this adaptation because it wasn't very good, but I do like that they included Wednesday and Pugsley more into the plot. Probably because they were working with adult voice actors instead of children, so it was easier to have them in more scenes. The premise of most of the episodes are that the Addams Family goes on road trips to different cities and they get up to their usual antics. Some people from those places are trying to steal their money too. Why is someone always trying to steal their money in every adaptation? Wednesday is also aged up in this adaptation because in one episode she turns 13 years old. I'm not sure if this means that she's older than Pugsley in this version, but in later versions she is older than him. My favorite part of one of the episodes I watched was when some detective guy says that Gomez and Morticia make Bonnie and Clyde look like Sonny and Cher. This actually made me laugh. But actually, Aston and Jones's Gomez and Morticia low-key look like Sonny and Cher. I mean, just look at their hair. This adaptation also has like way too many pop culture references. I understood some of them because I'm a fan of some old school things. That should be obvious because I am watching all of these shows. But these references really make the show feel dated. Like half of the time I didn't even know what they were talking about. Wednesday's dress is also pink again. I thought this was going to be a one-time thing from the Scooby-Doo version, but I guess not. That's really out of character. Like, I don't understand why they did that. I'll put this one in as a Planet Gone Mad tier. It's nothing special, definitely not peak Addams Family. This next one is a television movie titled Halloween with the New Addams Family from 1977, which doesn't make sense because this movie actually has the same cast from the 1964 sitcom. All of the same cast reprise their roles, even the children too. Everyone besides Blossom Rock, who played Grandmama. It's really nice to see the whole cast back together. Wednesday and Pugsley are all grown up. It's even in color too. We do have another family tree to go over though, so let's get into that. As you can see, pretty much everything is the same, besides the fact that Gomez has a younger brother out of nowhere. Like, we never even heard about him before. But anyways, his brother's name is Pancho. Gomez and Morticia also had 2 more children in between the ending of the 1964 show and this film. Their names are Pugsley and Wednesday Jr. When I first watched this film, I thought that they were Wednesday and Pugsley's kids because they were growing up now. But no. That's their siblings. The storyline is about Morticia and Gomez throwing a party for Halloween, and some criminals want to come to their party to steal their money. Back at it again with the stealing plot. The part that makes me mad though is the addition of Pancho Adams and Wednesday and Pugsley Jr. Pancho is basically a copy of Gomez, and he wants Morticia really bad. He wears Gomez's suits, and he even kisses Morticia's arm when she speaks French too. And you already know Morticia and Gomez had 2 more kids and named them Wednesday and Pugsley Jr. What was the reason for this? Like, really? And they're carbon copies of Wednesday and Pugsley too. They literally have on the same outfits. But anyways, the criminals come to their Halloween party trying to steal their money, and they get dressed up in costumes. 2 of them wear Gomez and Morticia costumes, so we got like 3 people in this movie dressed up like Gomez. They also got new people to play Grandmama and Granny Frump. For some reason, Granny Frump is also living in their house, and she's a witch too. In the original series, there was no hint that she was a witch. She actually seemed pretty normal. So why is Granny Frump a copy of Grandmama, and she's also living in the Addams house? Grandmama also low-key had beef with Granny Frump because she said,
Did you have a cake in the oven, Mama?
It's that woman again! That's my kitchen, not an airport!
they used to be best friends in the series. I don't know what happened. Maybe it was a Granny Frump's personality shift. The best thing about this one is Gomez and Morticia. Jones and Eston still have that chemistry many years later, and their jokes are pretty good. But for some reason, Gomez is missing for like half of the movie. He was on a trip because he was getting a higher rank in his lodge. I'm not sure what they meant by this. Maybe it's the Zen Yogi Society? I don't know. I assume that John Eston was doing another project, so that's why they added the Pancho character to fill in as the father figure. But he just makes me mad. Stop trying to be like Gomez. I like that the children kind of get roles in this one. Wednesday Sr. speaks to Gomez in Morse code with a flute because he gets kidnapped by bodybuilders. Yes, this actually happened. And Pugsley Sr. still barely does anything, but he is now Dr. Adams, and he is a witch doctor in Africa, so that's pretty cool. Uncle Fester's up to his usual antics and unknowingly brings the robbers into the playroom to quote-unquote relax. Pancho and Ophelia low-key have beef too because they said,
Why aren't you dancing with Morticia?
Why aren't you dancing with Gomez?
You always have big eyes for Morticia.
You've always had big eyes for him.
Well, then why aren't you dancing with her?
I will.
Me too!
like bro, please chill. Wednesday and Pugsley Jr. literally do nothing besides stand there and sometimes say random stuff. I honestly almost forgot to add them in the script. This movie doesn't have much focus, and I think that there's too much going on in the plot. I had really high hopes for this movie because it had all of the same cast, but it failed me anyways. A pretty cool thing about this adaptation is that the first black people in an Addams Family adaptation were in this. 2 whole black people. Hashtag the Addams Family representation. I'll give this one bonus points and put it in the Oh No He Lives tier, only because the OG cast was pretty good. But I'm really mad that Gomez didn't dole Pancho for trying to be Mr. Steal Your Girl. He don't even got it like that. So we're at the end of the video, but there's still 8 more adaptations to go over. I'm gonna make this a 3-part series because this video is already 20 minutes long and I don't want my tablet to blow up from how long this video is. I will be going over these adaptations in the next video, so make sure to like and subscribe to see part 2. And don't worry, next video I will be getting into some more good stuff, so be sure to come back. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you again in part 2 of an unhinged deep dive into every Addams Family adaptation. Bye!